How you doing, Blair?
I'm good. How are you?
Doing great.
Good.
Thanks for sitting down and talking. I'll let you introduce yourself. You can tell everybody who you are and what you do.
Hi, I'm Blair. I am from Colorado, living in Philly, working full-time as a model and actor.
How did you get started in the modeling industry?
So I probably actually been modeling since I was a kid. It was something that my dad was really about. He was always into the entertainment industry. My first sort of introduction was doing like modeling competitions like IMTA and things like that growing up. And then I got into pageants. So that kind of got me more interested in how I can pursue sort of this type of industry more. And eventually I made my way to Philadelphia and got signed here and have just been going ever since.
You do a lot of on-air modeling and what you would consider print modeling as well. What's the skill set difference for like being an on-air model versus just a e-commerce campaign style model?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think in on-air, you have to definitely be comfortable with showing your personality. And it's completely different from an e-commerce setting because in e-commerce, you are there to showcase the clothing, and even on air you are as well. It's a little bit more inwards, you can't really do too much, but an on air, it's like this sweet space of still doing modeling, but being able to show your personality at the same time. And I think if you can mirror those things together or pair those things together, it really gets you far in that kind of industry. Yeah.
Do you think one is harder than the other? Because on-air modeling, from what I've seen you do, it seems a little more static and less movements. Whereas though when you're shooting e-commerce or a campaign, you may be expected to do bolder movements or interact in a space differently.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. I enjoy all the worlds, to be honest. I think it's like everything is a different expectation and a different sort of mindset and a different sort of job that you're doing. I love editorial because I think that also gets me to be able to combine my love for just performance and dance and movement and, you're sort of capturing these like moments and you're able to really get in this like creative space. But I also am like, love being myself and love being Blair. So like on TV, I get to actually still do that as well in a different way, whereas it's less, performative and more just kind of like, hey, I'm Blair, like you're shopping with me. So it's like two different energies. I love them both, to be honest. Yeah.
What does because I mainly shoot commercial e-commerce and editorials and things like that, and we're very much 9 to 5. What does a typical day of on-air modeling look like? Start times, actual time on set working, and all of those things. Because I think when I first started meeting models who work at QVC, and I heard the hours you guys work, I'm just like, what?
Yeah.
So explain that to me a bit.
Yeah, it is. It can be a very crazy schedule because it's live television and there's no set really times. Like there can be static shows and things like that, but for the most part, you really don't know. You are in full control of like your booking, so you can take jobs as they come and go and you can kind of create your own schedule. But I'm very much like a say yes to everything person. So, it is not crazy for me to work from 7 p.m. to 3 a.m. and then have to be back at 7:30 in the morning and work until like 5 p.m. Just kind of depends on the day. So it can get very intense, but I'm used to it by now. Yeah.
When you first started doing those type of assignments, was there a conversation where people were like, hey, let your personality show through? Or is that something that you learn over time from being on set multiple times? Like I book more or people request me more if I show a little bit of myself?
I think it's something that I learned over time. Like when I was fresh into modeling, I think it's difficult because you don't really know what a client wants, right? So I think we all kind of get into this headspace of like, well, this is what modeling is. It's a pose and it's these things and I have to deliver this. And it can be very daunting to like want to show a personality because you don't want to overstep your boundaries or, you know, you could just be uncomfortable. But I just think that it really clicked for me when I discovered just be yourself, but like genuinely occupy space as yourself, you know, don't be afraid to show your personality. I started to book more, right? So more people want to work with me. And then it's like, well, they're going to recommend me because, oh, you're looking for someone who's fun. Oh, Blair, she always brings the energy, you know? So now you're getting booked more because they know you're not afraid to show up and do more, do the most almost. And if anything, I think it's better to be told, hey, can we just bring it down a little bit versus be the dead space just standing there, you know? So, but it took time. I definitely was not like that when I first got into it. Yeah.
Okay. Being in the industry as long as you have, what inspires you still about it? Is it the clothing? Is it working with new people? What's your inspiration to get up and say, I'm going to shoot with this person for free and do a test, or I'm going to pay and do a test, or I'm going to travel to this state to work with this photographer? What inspires you?
I love this question because it's going to come across like very like self-centered, but like I'm inspiring myself, I think, in this industry. Like I just really love what I do. And I really love being in front of people, and I really love showcasing who I am and being in front of a camera and posing or acting or doing any of these things is just so a part of who I am as a person. So I can't imagine myself trying to do other things at this point. The high of just being on a set or being on TV or being in front of a camera just is such an amazing, incredible experience to me. So it keeps me wanting to go and pursue more and try more, and it keeps me going in the industry. Yeah.
How do you stay sharp with your skills? Because over the years, you know, modeling has changed. The look, what people expect from you, how they want you to move and act in clothing is changed. So how do you stay sharp? Do you look at YouTube? Do you look at magazines, Instagram? Like, what's your way to learn and stay sharp in the modeling industry?
Yeah, I think there's always, in no matter industry that you're in, you always have to kind of always be researching, studying, and practicing and seeing what's happening. I think, I'm growing up with the industry, right? So to me, that means like actually growing up with it, right? So, I'm not going to probably be booking a job with 17-year-olds doing like a prom campaign, you know what I mean? So what is the clients and jobs that would book someone like me, right? So I think just staying sharp on that and like recognizing what spaces you can really occupy and find work in takes like research and studying. But I think if you are passionate about it, you can always sort of find that space and find that work for yourself.
Are you a mom yet on set?
All the time.
All the time? Okay. All right.
All the time. Yeah. Which I love it. Like, that's the other thing too. It's like, one of my like reoccurring clients is, like it caters to an older woman, and the photographer there is always like, you must hate coming here putting on like these clothes because like you would never dress like this. And I'm like, that's not what it's about though, like obviously no, that I'm not going to be wearing like elastic waist jeans just yet in my life, but like I know people who do, and I'm just like grateful for the work. And if that's the work, like I don't take offense to that. Like I would never look at that job and be like, well, look at me, like I shouldn't be in elastic waist jeans, like I'll do it. Sometimes it's not always as glamorous as you want it to be, but like I don't think that doesn't equate to success. Because like that's another thing I've been thinking about lately too, is just like success in the industry. Because I think so many people assume that like if you're not walking for Chanel and you're not in a Vogue campaign or something like that, you're not successful in this career, but like if you are someone who's consistently booking and staying on top of things, then that's definitely success, you know?
Yeah. What advice do you have for new models starting out in the industry?
Okay, 3 pieces of advice for new models in the industry. Number 1, just research. Research, and really find like what your space is that you can occupy within this industry. Like look at different agencies and the types of girls they're representing, and then do you match within that, you know? And if that's a space that you feel like you can be a home with, then my second piece of advice is then finding a agency or representation that really feels like a home to you and really represents the kind of work that you want to be in. Thirdly, just own who you are. Just own who you are, you know, like love who you are, love everything about you, love what you bring to the table, and be confident in that. Like, it's very hard because this is an industry that's about your looks, and you'll hear a lot of no's before you hear a yes. So like you have to become a master of rejection almost, but not taking that personally, and just growing, coming back in that space of like, I love what I'm doing, I love who I am, and you know, I want to take over the world.
What is the best advice you've received?
Well, in terms of like modeling, I think one of the best pieces of advice I ever received was stop worrying about what you look like in front of the camera. And that really makes sense to me in the perspective of like, let's say I'm really bent on the fact that like the left side of my face is my strong part, right? So I'm in a photo shoot and every pose I'm doing is like this. Well, that's like 300 pictures of you just like this. And so that's not really giving a lot of options. But, you know, you might feel the most confident like that. But now you're kind of occupying your headspace with like, well, I got to stay like this because I'm doing this. So I think when you get out of your head like that and you just learn to just move and take up the space and do whatever, you just work better and you get better results. And ultimately, you just feel better about yourself because you're outside of your head and you're just sort of living in the moment more.
Yeah. What was a moment, be it a shoot, a booking, where you were like, oh my gosh, I'm doing this, I've arrived, like that high moment?
I think I'm fortunate where I've had like a lot of really good high moments. I mean, I've had some really cool clients and some really fun jobs, and I'm always grateful for like every piece of work I get to do. So I don't know if there's necessarily a specific one, but like in a general sense, the high really comes from, to me, like if I'm doing a really good job or like I'm just really being myself and a client is like, oh, I love that. Like, oh, wait, try that again. Like, oh, wait, what did you just like, when that kind of energy is happening, it's like, okay, I'm doing a good job. I'm doing it. I love it. And I really love that kind of feedback. Yeah.
What challenges are you facing now in your career?
I have no challenges.
I love the look really sold that.
I'm like,
You don't. You know, that's what it is.
I don't know if they're challenges. Yeah, they're not challenges right now. I'm busy, you know, and I'm grateful for that. I think the biggest challenge is there's always an underlying fear of like, what does the future look like? But I think that's for everyone across any board. So obviously there's always this, how do I keep growing? How do I keep growing and evolving? So even though that is a challenge and a fear, I think it's a fear I overcome by just staying on top of like, okay, well, where can I look at for work? And what's the next move? So I guess that's a challenge in a sense.
Yeah.
But.
One thing I never paid much attention to is just how much people are in your personal space in this industry. Mm-hmm. You know, like I tell photographers all the time, it's like if you want to be a commercial photographer, you have to get used to people being over your shoulder, looking at the image, commenting on it, telling you what to do, how to take it, and that comes with the territory. As a model, was there any adjustment that needed to be done with people in your personal space, tugging on clothes, makeup, hands in your face, all of that? Because I've heard models quit because of that reason. They're just like, I can't do it anymore. Like, I'm done. Like, did you have to make any adjustments with that?
Yeah.
Because I can see models getting flustered sometimes where I tell people like, all right, let's take a break. Let's give, the talent a second. Because sometimes you can just see in their face where they're just like,
yeah,
like people are tugging too much.
Yeah, there have been times where it can be a bit overwhelming. Different clients have different vibes as well. So I think to me, I get the most overwhelmed when there's a lot of pressure on a situation, so I'm a very like laid back, low energy type of person. So when you're working with a client who's like opposite of that, so everyone is sort of like on edge about their job. It trickles down, right? That energy, you can feel that energy because it's like, you're just trying to be peace and love, and you got someone who's like, I gotta make sure the hair is right, but they're only doing that because they don't want to get yelled at because someone's gonna come to them and say, the hair's not right, so it's sort of this like chaotic sort of high stress environment. It's a lot to deal with, but I think just I've kind of had to learn like the art of like woo-sawing myself out in those moments and not letting it become as overwhelming as it can be. Yeah.
That's a good point. Do you have any advice for photographers? Because you've done a lot of tests and you've worked with a lot of people. Like, what are some qualities that really help the photo shoot go well, and what are some qualities that may like, hey, we need to kick this to the curb?
Yeah. No. I think there can be room to play across all boards, and I guess it depends on the job and the photographer and what you're trying to get through. Because like if it's for a client, obviously there's asks that need to happen. So if things need to be specific, they need to be specific, But like in a test shoot sort of setting, I think it's fun to have a photographer tell you their vision and direct you, because it might teach you in a way that you have not modeled before, and you might be surprised with the results that you get. In the same regard, just also let, a model as a creative also create in her space. And, so I think like that kind of push and pull dynamic could be, expressed more, I guess, in some settings. Yeah.
One thing that stands out about you and your personality from the first day I met you is your professionalism. And a lot of models lack that. A lot of people in general, I think, in this industry can lack professionalism, not just models. I'm not going to pick on them. But where did you learn that from? And was that something that you came into the industry with, or did you have a couple hiccups and you're like, all right, I need to get this together, or I need to shape myself a little better in this particular category?
I mean, I think I always saw like my dad specifically being like a hard worker, and I think he instilled in me like, you don't want to be the person that shows up like unprepared for your job, right? So I think as models, maybe sometimes we think we're just modeling, but like, like I always show up to a set with like a makeup kit, even if I know there's going to be a makeup artist. Why? Well, because you just never know. Like, you just never know. Like, there's some basics that you should probably always have with you. And trying to be on time and being respectful to who you're working with, and knowing what you're working, like doing research about the job you're doing. Like if you book for a client, looking at their past work before you show up, so you kind of know like what the expectation of the day is. Those are all things that I think go with understanding that you're still here to do a job. It's not like you're going into a cubicle doing a 9 to 5, but it's still a job, and you should still be professional about it. And I think I just kind of learned that from childhood. The biggest life lesson I learned was from my dad. My dad passed away when I was 15 years old, but I watched him. His biggest dream was to become a screenplay writer. I watched him for so many years work in an industry that basically was rejecting him as hard as he worked in it. So it was like he's working so hard in this space and getting fired and having to rebuild again, and then working really hard and then getting fired and having to rebuild again.
In corporate America.
And so when he did finally get fired for his last time, he said, you know what, I'm going to go full out into my dream, which was screenplay writing, and had a very successful run. He had meetings with people like a Quentin Tarantino, and he was writing these films, and right when it seemed like it's all coming together, he got diagnosed with cancer, and he died within 6 months. And that always sits with me as like, go after what you want, because imagine if you actually did, here you are seeing all that success and then not actually getting to live in that high because you spent all this time doing something because it's what you're supposed to do, you know? So it can be scary, there's that fear, but I'd rather live in that fear and know that I'm just living in my dream and what I love than doing something that just makes sense because that's what society tells me to do.
What's next for you in your career?
Well, I'm a superstar, clearly famed. That's like a great question. It's a question I'm like trying to change the narrative, I guess, for myself in what I define my success in this career as and what my next move is. Like, what's your 5-year goal? And express my space of gratitude. Like, I've been working full time in this industry for over 10 years now. And that's, I think, an incredible feat. And especially when I get into conversations with people and they say, oh, I wish that I could have been acting, or I wish I could be doing modeling and all these things. It's like, I'm doing it. And I'm doing it even with the uncertainty that the industry has, you know, like there are months where you're killing it, you're booked and busy, and then you're like, okay, no one wants to use me. Okay, oh my goodness. So those kind of ebbs and flows. So when I look at like, well, what's next for you? I mean, I don't necessarily think it's like next in the step of like something major has to happen. I think it's just continuing to be successful as I've been for the past like 10 years. Yeah.
That's good. Thanks for sitting down and talking.
Yeah, thank you.